Welcome to this deep dive. It's really custom tailored for you future RCVDs. You know, those of you who've already put in the serious study hours, you've wrestled with the TDMM, you've done the practice exams, and you're right there in the home stretch. You're probably feeling that buzz, right? So close. But maybe also feeling like, well, something's still missing. Like you need one final strategic push to really nail this thing.
Exactly. That's common. You've built a really solid foundation of knowledge by this point. What we're aiming for today isn't, going back over the basics. It's more of a tactical framework.
Right.
To elevate your preparation, make sure you're investing that last bit of study time where it's really going to count.
Okay, sounds good. Let's unpack this. Starting with step one, diagnose with precision. Now, a common thing we see, maybe a mistake, is just relying on intuition.
Yeah, that gut feeling.
Like, ooh, grounding still feels a bit shaky, or, man, pathways are always tough. But this stage, that's probably not the most efficient way to focus.
Precisely. Expert-level prep really moves beyond those gut feelings. It needs to be much more, data-driven.
Okay.
Instead of just sort of assuming where you need work, we want to pinpoint the specific areas that are really demanding your attention.
So how do we do that? What's the action step?
Okay, first step. Pull out your last 2 or 3 practice tests. You probably have them handy.
Right. Got them.
Good. Now, this is really important. Chart the topics of every single question you miss.
Every single one. Okay.
Don't just glance at the right answer. Actively figure out, what underlying subject was being tested there.
Okay, chart the topics. Then what?
Then take that analysis a step further. Group those missed questions by the BICSI domain.
Ah, okay.
Think about categories like backbone distribution, or maybe those tricky telecommunication spaces, or the details of bonding and grounding. This starts showing you if there are broader themes, like entire knowledge areas maybe, where you're weaker.
That makes sense. So you see if it's just random questions or a whole section that's giving you trouble.
Exactly. It gives you a much more holistic view. And then the key is to bring in the RCDD exam blueprint.
The blueprint.
Right.
That tells you how much each domain is actually worth on the exam.
Precisely. So you compare your list of weak areas against the blueprint's weighting. That lets you prioritize what really needs your focus.
So you're not spinning your wheels on something that's like 2% of the exam.
You got it. The benefit here is creating this personalized hit list. Instead of just vaguely reviewing everything again, you know exactly where to target your efforts. It avoids wasting time and ultimately maximizes your chance to boost that score.
Okay, great. So we've got our data-driven hit list.
Yeah.
Step 1, done. That leads into step 2, which you mentioned is about moving from knowledge to application. Because you've likely memorized a ton of definitions, acronyms, maybe specs. But the RCDD exam isn't just about spitting that back out, is it?
Not at all. Not in the slightest. It heavily emphasizes your ability to apply that knowledge. In practical, real-world design scenarios, that's the critical transition from knowing stuff to using stuff.
How do you practice that transition?
Scenario-based training. That's where it's at. You need to actively engage with hypothetical design situations.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, picture this. You've got a job, and you need to lay out a telecommunications room, but the floor plan is super tight, really constrained space.
Okay, yeah, that happens.
What are the immediate things that pop into your head? What BICSI standards are instantly relevant? What clearances do you need?
Right. Or maybe designing backbone cabling for a multi-story building.
Perfect example. What pathways would you look at? What are the distance limits you absolutely have to respect? How do you handle redundancy, future growth?
And for these scenarios, you're saying we need to actively question ourselves.
Yes. Ask, what would I actually do here? Which specific standard applies? What are those distance limits again? How should I route these pathways for compliance and efficiency?
So it's like talking it through.
Exactly. Mentally walk through the design. Even better, verbalize your solutions out loud. Explain the why behind your choices, like you're justifying it to someone.
Okay, that active recall. It forces your brain to connect the dots differently.
It really does. This mental rehearsal, it's powerful stuff. It directly preps you for those application questions on the exam.
Yeah, it's totally different from just knowing, say, the max length of a UTP run is 100 meters.
Right. You need to understand how that 100 meters impacts your actual design on floor 3 and what you need to do about it.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Application is key. What's step 3?
Step 3. Visual mastery of diagrams and tables.
Ah, the pictures.
Exactly. After hours and hours staring at text in the TDMM, it's actually pretty easy to kind of gloss over the visuals.
But the exam won't, right?
You can bet on it. A surprising number of questions will directly test your recall and interpretation of diagrams, charts, tables, all that visual stuff.
Your success might literally hinge on remembering a specific chart.
Absolutely. Could be a cable separation chart, maybe conduit fill capacity, maybe a specific grounding layout. Being able to pull that visual up in your mind quickly is crucial.
So the action here is actively work with the visuals.
Yes. Start physically redrawing key diagrams from memory.
Redrawing them. Okay.
Yeah.
Like what kind of diagrams?
Focus on the important ones. Typical TR layouts, bonding and grounding systems are huge. Fire-stopping visuals, rack elevations, things that show best practices.
And you mentioned tables, too.
Definitely don't forget the tables. Systematically review them. Actively try to memorize key data points. Things like conduit fill, separation distances from EMI sources, cable support spacing. That stuff comes up.
So the goal is building, like, visual fluency.
That's a great way to put it. By actively redrawing and reviewing now, you're making it much easier to recall that info accurately under pressure during the exam, especially for complex questions that basically point you to a figure you should know.
Any specific exercise for that?
Yeah, try this. Pick your personal top 10, maybe 15 most critical charts and diagrams from the TDMM.
Okay.
Make it a daily habit. Redraw them, jot down key table data, all from memory. Blank paper, then check yourself against the book, see what you missed.
Daily practice. Okay, I can see how that would cement it. All right, that brings us to step 4. We're getting closer to the exam now.
Step 4 is simulate real exam pressure.
Whatever hour. So moving beyond just casual practice questions.
Way beyond. You've probably done some practice tests, which is good. But now, it's time to ramp up the realism dramatically.
How do we do that?
You need to meticulously replicate the entire testing environment and all the constraints as close as you possibly can.
Okay, specifics. Action steps.
Absolutely essential. Commit to taking at least 2 full-length practice exams. That's 100 questions each.
Full length, got it.
And this is critical. Strictly adhere to the time limit. 2.5 hours, set a timer, no cheating, treat it like the real deal.
And distractions.
Eliminate them, all of them. No phone buzzing, no emails popping up, no quick breaks to grab coffee.
Okay.
Try to mimic the physical setup too. Quiet room, clear desk, just you and the test for that full 2.5 hours. I remember doing this for a cert, that timer ticking. It's intense at first.
I bet, but necessary.
It really helps you manage time and stay calm later, but the simulation doesn't end when the timer goes off.
Right, the review afterwards.
Yes, and that review is just as important, maybe even more so, than taking the test itself. Plan to spend about the same amount of time reviewing as you did taking it.
2.5 hours of review. Wow. What are we looking for?
You need to ask yourself some tough questions. What slowed me down? Where did I hesitate or second-guess myself? For the ones I thought I nailed, was I actually right?
So analyzing the process, not just the wrong answers.
Exactly. It gives you huge insights into your remaining knowledge gaps. Yeah, but also your test-taking habits and weaknesses under pressure.
So it's like performance training.
That's it, exactly. You're building mental stamina, learning to think clearly when stressed, problem solve with the clock ticking. It's honing that ability to execute.
Okay, crucial step. That brings us to the final one, step 5.
Step 5. Lock in logistics and mindset.
This is about the final days, right before the exam.
Yep.
The focus shifts now. It's about eliminating any last-minute stress points and getting your head in the right space.
Okay, logistics first. What needs checking?
Double, triple check that exam date and the exact location. Know where you're going.
Yep.
Make sure you have the right ID. Figure out your arrival time. Allow plenty for check-in, parking, whatever. Plan your route.
Prepare your stuff the night before.
Yep.
Clothes, calculator.
Definitely. Lay it all out. Avoid any morning scramble or panic. Reduce decision fatigue.
Makes sense. And the mindset part. This is where people might be tempted to cram.
Yes. And that is precisely what you should not do. The 24, maybe 48 hours before, that is not the time for intense all-night cramming.
Why not? Seems counterintuitive.
It just increases anxiety and actually hurts your recall ability on the day. You'll be tired, stressed. It backfires.
So what should you do the day before?
Light, passive review. That's it. Maybe flip through your flashcards one last time.
Yeah.
Glance at those key diagrams you've been redrawing.
But mostly, unplug. Disconnect from the study grind. Go for a walk, relax, get a good night's sleep, eat well.
Sounds much nicer than cramming.
It is. And it's more effective.
Yeah.
Then, exam day itself, basics, Hydrate. Eat a decent meal a couple hours before, not too heavy. And right before you go in or when you sit down, take a few slow, deep breaths. Just center yourself. Manage those nerves.
And remember all the work you've already put in.
Exactly. You've done the heavy lifting. This final step isn't about jamming more facts in your head. It's about clarity, confidence, being ready to execute what you already know.
Okay, fantastic. So let's quickly recap those 5 steps.
Sure. 1, diagnose with precision. Use your practice test data.
2, go from knowledge to application practice with scenarios.
3, visual mastery. Redraw those diagrams and tables.
4, simulate real exam pressure timed, focus practice tests, and review.
And 5, lock in logistics and mindset. Handle the details. Stay calm. Don't cram.
It's a solid game plan, a pathway to precision, intention, and control.
We really believe you can do this. You've shown the commitment just by getting this far and listening to this deep dive.
Absolutely. Now it's all about that focused, confident execution on the day.
Well, thank you for joining us for this targeted deep dive. We really hope this strategic framework helps you in these final stages.
Yeah, definitely. And if you found this helpful, please do follow the show and maybe share it with anyone else you know who's gearing up for the RCDD.
Good idea. Until next time, stay sharp, stay focused.
And go past that exam.
You got this.
And hey, as you head into these final days, here's something to think about. Which one of these 5 steps do you honestly think will need the most conscious effort from you? And what specific adjustment, like one concrete thing, will you make to your routine to make sure you really prioritize that step? Good luck.